This is the Kitchen Sink WP podcast, episode 498.
I program my own computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster. Hello, everybody. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. We have 3 upcoming events next weekend. First and foremost, WordCamp Finland, September 14th and 15th. WordCamp Pontevedr in Spain, September 16th and 17th. And then a one-day camp, WordCamp Whitley Bay in Spanish City, Whitley Bay, September 18th. So you could go to all 3 and be perfect. It'd be awesome. But keep in mind that WordCamp Whitley Bay is in Spanish City, but that's actually in the UK. It's in the United Kingdom. So I had to look that up as well. Interesting that they have a Spanish City in the UK. Anyway, all right, moving on. Segment 1 in the news. Only one thing to talk about here so far that I can see. GoDaddy retires Media Temple, the brand. They closed its doors as of after 24 years, and they are fully migrated over to GoDaddy. They got acquired back in 2013. Yeah, 2013. And I remember Media Temple, actually, they had an office in Los Angeles. I went to a meetup there before I started my South Bay meetup way back. And it was pretty cool. And I actually even looked into them when I was moving from my buddy's server to move over. Media Temple was known as a good host, but they were expensive. And of course, my philosophy now is you get what you pay for. And then they reached out to sponsor, but I just signed a deal with another hosting company to sponsor this podcast. So never did work out. Anyway, all that said, they retired the brand. So it's interesting to see that happen. I mean, 24 years of branding, and they just that's it. That's over. So, all right, moving on. So that's it in the news. Is that it in the news? Yeah, that's it in the news this week. Moving right along, segment 2, the meat and potatoes of this week's episode. Continuing the monthly series of non-WordPress LMSs, other alternatives. This week, I took some time and dove into what's called Freshlearn. It's one I hadn't really heard about, but I found it because it competes with like a Kajabi and, Thinkific, etc. So I went over to Freshlearn and checked it out, and it's interesting. So I created an account. Again, 30,000 foot view here. Nothing too fancy on the creating the account. No confirmation really necessary as well. Immediately taken to the next screen and asks you the handful of onboarding questions. For example, what's your title? How do you see yourself? I just said entrepreneur. Your industry of choice. You can pick multiple different industries. I mean, you pick one, but there's a huge list of different industries. How far along are you? Meaning, how much revenue have you already created in this realm, if you will? So I picked that one. And then also, how did you learn about Freshlearn? And I just said Google. So that's how I did find out about it, kind of thing. So from there, next screen, you get to the dashboard. Pretty standard stuff. Left side, members, products, website, marketing, sales, settings, and reports. Those are all separate tabs with multiple levels within each one of those. And then in the middle of the section, it says welcome and get started. And you're given 4 choices to kind of work with right off the bat. Create a course, connect to your bank, build sales page with AI, which we'll come back to in a minute, actually. I thought that was interesting. And personalize. So me being me and what I've been doing lately, I jumped right into creating a course. And I clicked the button, and it gives you a couple options for the course title, description, the author, make it public or private, community group, which I didn't dive into, and a thumbnail. You can upload a thumbnail for the course itself. Then I click the course again, create course, the button, and then the next screen is the meat and potatoes here is where you can add content. Modules, chapters are on top of in general gist of LMSs. On the very top of this area, you're given 6 areas of focus, kind of like a pipeline, if you will. And those 6 areas that you kind of go through are the curriculum, pricing, pages, drip, certification, and gamification. And some of those require an upgrade of the package that you get, the level you're paying for. I think the drip and the gamification, you had to pay more. Pages were okay, pricing, yes, curriculum, no problems. Anyway, focusing on the curriculum, I dove into that. And you can add chapters, of course. You can add content, document. You can also add video, audio, live, quiz, and assignments. Oh, yeah, that's right. Also, live, you had to pay for the pro level as well. We'll get to pricing later. I added some content. I added images, text, links to video. And then I moved into the quizzes because I wanted to see how that worked. And the quiz, though not as smooth as other platforms that I've tried, it does work. It took me a minute to figure out. You kind of create an assessment. That's what the quiz is. It's an assessment, and then you attach the assessment to the course in a different pane. It was just kind of a weird, and I say pane as in P-A-N-E, not P-A-I-N. Anyway, it was a little convoluted at first. So there's that. But overall, really fairly smooth as far as that process goes, not too difficult. I did like that I can view the student without having to log out. Like I can view the course as I'm building it, and other platforms have this as well. Some do, some don't. I also added pricing, made it free, and I did create a student account. So I logged in incognito, created an account as it was free to see how things went. And it was fine. It looked exactly kind of what I expected to look like. You can drag and drop your chapters and modules around, as in many other platforms as well. Pretty fairly standard stuff these days. Nothing too crazy there. I was curious about the preset templates because before creating my account, it said this whole AI thing with content, and I thought that was cool. But I realized that the AI, it's used loosely, in my opinion, at the moment. Or maybe I'm just confused on how they implement it here. It's really only for the landing and sales page for the category. So if you're doing, let's say, a course about how to cook a certain thing, they have that sales page created for you. And you can create that page, and then you can go pick it back in that section where it says pages, like the third section over that pipeline area I mentioned earlier. You can then pick that page as the landing page for that course. So it does save you a chunk of time there. Pretty cool. And you can, it's block based, if you will. You can swap out information and images and content and text, obviously. So yeah, I thought it was cool. What I didn't like was on the pricing, a couple of things, like coupons are not a part of pricing. Okay, so speaking of pricing, let me go there real quick to see what the pricing was, because I did the free level, and while we're talking live real quick, as I'm recording, yeah, so free, no transaction fees, I thought was interesting, unlimited digital products, payments integrations, custom branding, video hosting, a whole bunch in the free level. There's Pro, and there's also a level called No Brainer. Pro is $39 a month. The No Brainer is $69. You also get a mobile app, gamification, questions bank. If you pay yearly, the prices drop to $29 a month and $49 a month. So it's interesting. And then they had a lot of other things. They have cohorts, master classes, a community. I couldn't quite see how that was. But yeah, I'm confused a little bit personally on the assessments versus quizzes. And also I think Drip. You also had to have the paid level as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Drip, you do have to pay at least $30 a month, or actually $39 a month or $29 if you're doing a yearly payment. Anyway, again, I'm not connected to them. I'm just diving into these other options out there because I have intention one day to create a course and put it out there in the world. So that will happen. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. So there you go. It says, of course, their marketing says trusted by 13,000 creators, coaches, fitness and wellness trainers, artists, etc. It does look cool. It's pretty clean. I did like it compared to some of the other ones I've been trying out in the past few months, and I will continue to try out a few more here through the end of the year. Probably just finish it up come December. So only October, 3 more of these, and then we'll call it a wrap. Anyway, if you're interested, check it out. It's over at freshlearn.com. Again, I'm not connected to them, but it was interesting. I did like it. It was really easy to kind of get going. The fact that there weren't that many hoops to jump through to get your content in. I think there's some other ones that might be better as far as overall UI, UX, but this wasn't terrible and interesting if you're looking for an alternative to a WordPress LMS. So check it out. It's over once again at Freshlearn.com. Okay, so there you go. 30,000 foot view. Interesting. Not perfect, not terrible. Has some nice features. And there you go. All right, moving on. Segment 3, tip and tool of the week. This week is a link over on, where did I see this? At Life Hacker. It's about retro browser games. I got thinking about this because I miss playing games sometimes. It's been a long time since I used to be a big time gamer. But you can play in your browser Prince of Persia, amongst other stuff. I'll link to this in the show notes, of course. It's over at lifehacker.com about best retro game browser games, etc. So check it out if you're like old school games from the 90s. Pretty neat stuff. So Prince of Persia was one of my favorites. And so I found it. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I spent about a half an hour playing and I'm back to work. All right, moving on. That's it for this week. If you have any questions, go ahead, send it in via email, adam@kitchensinkwp.com, or use that SpeakPipe function on the website. If you want to support the show, you can become a Patreon. I would really love that. If you want to, there's a kitchensinkwp.com/Patreon. You can sponsor the show. There's a form on the website. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out and do some awesome things with WordPress. All right. Bye-bye.